It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, where every guest is treated like Caesar and every visit is unforgettable.
All right, here we go. It is the Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. I'm Dave Cokin. Caesars Entertainment Director Trading Jeff Davis joining us in just a second. Teddy Covers will be along as soon as he can get through the traffic. He's run into some road construction issues on the way to the studio today. Ari Platinum is behind the console. We got some final scores in baseball. Just going final. Just now, the Phillies are not going to go 162-0. A walk-off walk with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. The Nationals get the 9-8 victory. It has not been a good opening week for the Nationals, but they get a win today. The Twins have picked up another one-run win over the Royals, 7-6. A nice little series for Minnesota there as they've come back to get 2 wins in that series. The White Sox beat the Indians 8-3. Cleveland still having trouble locating its offense. Rockies and Rays, a pitching classic here, 1 of 2. This morning, the Rockies get the 1-0 win over Tampa. That was in 11 innings. And I was on the wrong side of the other 1-0 game, and that was the Brewers and Reds. I bet the Reds. They lost 1-0 to the Brewers. The only run coming in the second inning on a walk, followed by a balk, and then a 2-out single. Kind of an odd combination, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Jeff Davis joining us right now, and this is exciting news. Before we get into the sports stuff, James Taylor heading to Caesars Palace. This is good stuff.
Yeah, he announced doing 12 shows, 6 shows in April, 6 shows in May. We're starting Wednesday, April 17th, and he's playing Wednesday, Friday, Saturday for 4 straight weeks on that schedule.
So, question here, as far as maybe I don't think you can set odds on this. It wouldn't pass muster as far as gaming control is concerned. But I was wondering if you could come up with a price on whether there will be Red Sox decor in the showroom for James Taylor, because let's face it, he's a diehard Red Sox fan.
Yeah, he is. What would be the price? No, clearly a big favorite, but guys like you and me would find that amusing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd get to him beforehand and say, let's put some championship banners up or something like that. He'd probably go for it. Why not?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Jimmy Kimmel's also coming to town to tape his show here, and that's something you don't even have to pay for. Just show up, and you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, he's taping a show this week at Zappos Theater at Planet Hollywood. 3:30 p.m. start time. He's doing it through Friday. No charge. Show up and watch the show. There
you go. Good stuff. All right, let's open with the latest on the Final Four. Texas Tech, Michigan State. Look, Texas Tech's been a phenomenal story. But from a betting standpoint, doesn't this have to be a game where the public is going to bet on Sparty?
It is, Dave, and this is one of our pros versus Joes games that we talk about. We took some sharp Texas Tech +3 earlier in the week. Ticket counts just about 2-1 on Michigan State, and that figures to continue. More tickets on Michigan State on the point spread, more tickets on Texas Tech on the money line, as is normally the case in these big events, and I don't see that changing.
Yeah, talking about the game itself, and again, I mean, all respect to Chris Beard. He has done an absolutely incredible job at Texas Tech. A good run last year and obviously a better one this year. But, boy, I can understand some real hesitation about going against Izzo when it gets down to the Final Four.
Couldn't agree more. You just see him get the most out of his players. You see him want to scream and yell at these guys, and sometimes it's the way to get to them. And he seems like the guy that knows that you can't deal with one player the same way as you deal with the other. And I'm with you. I wouldn't want to necessarily play against him in this spot.
Now, the other game is interesting because, from a betting standpoint, especially because I think opinion might be more, and I don't know what the ticket counts are. That's part of the reason we talk to you guys to find out what the bettors are doing. But I don't think Virginia is the most popular team around. People don't like their style of play. They're just not a North Carolina or a Duke or a Michigan State when it comes to having feverish fans. And I have a feeling Auburn might end up being popular with the bettors because they like them more.
You're absolutely right, and it's funny you mention that because I got a text from a friend that suggested the exact same thing. The public is just piling on Auburn. Ticket count is almost 3-1 on Auburn. Moneyline ticket count is even higher. there's been conflicting sharp interest. When we've gone to 5, there's been people that lay the 5 to get us back to 5.5. So 5.5 probably is the closing number, but the public has kind of fallen in love with Auburn and the teams they've beaten along the way. It's a pretty good resume.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't blame the public for falling in love with the team that just beat Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky to get here. Talk about blue bloods. That's the ultimate blue blood trio. And while Virginia, not the bluest blood remaining. What did you say? Michigan State's the blue blood team? Yeah. Although, man, at 2.5. It just seems like the Spartans are so cheap, you know what I mean?
I know
with
it.
Izzo against Beard, and I understand the statistical profile of the Red Raiders and how good defensively they've been all year, but it just feels like Michigan State's the class in that game, and it's just not reflecting the points.
I don't know if they are, though. And that's the thing. I mean, Texas Tech is so good, and Culver is a phenomenal player. And, there's someone going to argue that Michigan State's got the star power, but that Culver might be the best guy on the floor. And this is going to be a fun weekend, Jeff.
I agree. I'm really looking forward to watching this Texas Tech-Michigan State team. And Michigan State is the blue blood, but sometimes when you look at these teams, you have to forget about the color or the name or the logo on the jersey and just handicap the teams that are playing. And Texas Tech has been as good as any.
I honestly think that if you took the jerseys off, if you just look at the profile for Texas Tech, Michigan State, maybe that line comes 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Ken Palm number.
You're right. But that's part of the betting business is the odds aren't always true odds. Sometimes you've got to reflect what public opinion is going to be, JD.
Absolutely, and they've got it right on this one. And as we said earlier, the +3 didn't last very long. So I think Teddy's right in that this game probably goes down before it goes back up.
Let's talk a little baseball. It's early season, so this is natural. It's not unusual at all. But they're still worth noting. We've got some upside-down early standings. American League, Orioles have won 4 out of 5. Mariners have won 7 out of 8. Red Sox 1 out of 6, 1-5, and that was a comeback win where they got kind of lucky. The Yankees have got the whole team hurt. The Astros are literally hitting 100 with runners in scoring position, and the Angels, they're terrible. The Angels one might not be a fluke. That might just be a bad baseball team.
They might be, and they're missing Justin Upton in a big way. The offensive drop-off from him to Peter Borges, I mean, I'm not sure there's one bigger in all of baseball. But you can't put too much stock in a week's worth of results. I watched a Red Sox game last night. They haven't got anyone out for a week, and then Sale guts out a performance without his best stuff. The bullpen looks great. They give up a home run in the top of the first, one's at final. And it's just the way the game goes. There's such variance in it. And you're right about the Angels. This team might not be any good.
Let me ask you about the two surprise hot teams in terms of Baltimore and Seattle. Has the betting markets, has the public, has anyone shown any interest in these teams yet, or the hot start's mostly going by the wayside when it comes to the bettors?
Seattle has shown a little interest, but the Orioles have shown no interest. We've needed the Orioles in every game, but today, interestingly enough, that has flipped, and we actually are rooting against the Orioles for the first time. All the money on Baltimore today.
Yeah, I texted someone just before the game, and I said, I made a mistake. And at this point, I don't care what happens. I made a mistake not betting Toronto in this game. Carnes as basically an opener for 2 innings, and then whoever against Shoemaker. That price should be more like $1.70. And this is the first time this year there's a bargain against the Orioles, and I missed it. So, and again, the game might win, might lose, but baseball is all about churning out value, and I just flat out missed that one.
That's 2-0, top of the fourth. Toronto.
Well, there you go. Well, they're going to win. You can take that one to the bank.
Yeah. If you didn't bet it, you know that it's a winner.
Well, what about the Yankees at this point? What do you do as far as pricing them daily goes? Because, I mean, they are really hurting physically.
Yeah, and this is one, if I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm not sweating the start too much.
No.
If I'm a Yankees fan, these are injuries. And I looked at the box score last night. That lineup is not a Yankees lineup as you would expect. It gets real thin at the bottom. And some of these guys are going to be out for a while. We actually adjusted the AL East prices a little bit. The Yankees are still the favorite to win the AL East, but they came down a little bit, and we chopped Tampa down a little bit. But if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm not overly excited with what's taking place.
No, and if Andujar is out for the season, Gregorius is already, he's going to be missing in action for some time. That's the left side of the infield, and that really does change things. No, I think the Red Sox become the favorites in that division. I'm not saying that as a fan. That's a nonpartisan viewpoint. I think the Red Sox have to become the favorite in that division if the Yankees don't make some kind of a deal, and they're not easy to make.
Agree. Again, you can't put too much stock into a week, and the Red Sox are too deep. Yeah, maybe the bullpen is a little weaker than it was last year, but, Benintendi hasn't hit yet, and Betts hasn't really produced yet. These things will all change.
I mean, the single most popular favorite is from the early money to where the lines are right now on the betting board today is the Houston Astros. And Dave talked about earlier where the Astros literally hitting 100 with runners in scoring position, sitting at 2 and 4 right now. But they're healthy. The Yankees aren't. The Red Sox are slumping even worse. What are we seeing on Houston right now, and why do you think they're taking so much money today in their game against Texas?
It's a combination of two things. Texas really, you look at the bottom of their lineup, you look at their bullpen, this team's not very good. Find it hard to believe they finish anywhere other than last in the AL West. And then you've got the people that are playing the do factor, and while I'm not a big do factor guy, a team in the lineup like the Astros aren't going to continue to struggle with guys on like they are. And about the money, it's the second most one-sided game of the day behind Cubs-Braves.
The Phillies finally lost a game, their first loss of 2019, and it took just an awful error by Rhys Hoskins.
And they still went over the total, though.
Oh, yeah, way over.
I'm telling you, this Philly's over. Ride it.
They are a monster offensively. And the flip side of that is the Nationals get a win, but it's been a really bad start for them. And now Trey Turner going to be gone for a while with a broken finger. I don't think there's anything fluky about their bad start. That team's got trouble.
Yeah, and if Trey Turner's going to miss an extended period of time, it's not good. He's one of their key two best players with Juan Soto. He wreaks havoc on the base paths. He's a good shortstop. He kind of makes that team go. Big problem in a division that's full of three other really good teams. Missing him for a period of time is bad news for the Washington Nationals.
The Milwaukee Brewers won again today.
They're hot.
I think and it's only a weekend, my under bet on the Brewers is in real bad trouble. And I'll say that in 1 week. They look like the most confident team in baseball right now. And they're winning close games again. And, boy, Craig Counsell's he's put together a monster there.
He has. And you look at the roster, and Dave, you and I have talked about this in the previous weeks, that we just don't think they're all that good. And they're a 500 team. But, I mean, Hader just keeps mowing guys down in the middle innings. And, I'm a little scared that Yelich has scored or driven in more than half of this team's runs. And I'm going to keep saying this can't continue, and I'm sure he'll probably keep raking. But if he comes back to earth at all, I don't know where the runs come from.
Well, the Cubs have scored some runs in some games. They didn't score a whole lot on Monday. 6 errors.
It could have been 7 because there was one that wasn't called an error that was.
And an 8-0 shutout loss. They look like an early mess, while Milwaukee off to a hot start in the NL Central. What are you seeing on Chicago? Have the markets cooled on the Cubs yet following their slow start?
People love the Cubs. People love Chicago teams. It's not just baseball. It's every sport. We will continue to need whoever the Cubs are playing just about every night all season. Are the Cubs as bad as they've shown so far? Probably not. The bullpen is good enough. It's been bad, but I find it hard to believe this continues. While they might not be a low 90s win team, I'm not sure it's time to panic at Wrigley yet. You
said that you need the Cubs almost every night, but you also said earlier that your highest ticket count today was going against the Cubs, their high percentage ticket count. Is that the market's liking Tehran? They're not liking Lester? What's the story?
No, the highest ticket count today is the Cubs.
Oh.
Yeah, we always need against the Cubs. We need the other side.
I am on the other side. I think the John Lester is a guy to be faded at this point. I mean, they hit some ropes off him in that Texas game last week, and it was just happened. It was one of those games where it was at everybody. I don't think there's much left there, and I still kind of like this Braves team. Let's talk a little NHL, and we are set. The Golden Knights and Sharks will meet in the opening round. We're going to talk about the rest of the league as well, but Golden Knights and Sharks I know it's a meaningless game, Jeff, but I want to see Fleury play well against Arizona in what will be his one appearance, I assume, before the playoffs. got to feel good about Fleury going into this series.
Absolutely. They needed to get him back to get at least one game under his belt before they go in a playoff.